being here. Welcome to Committee on Ordinance. Today is Monday, October 21st, and the time is 5:43. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chairman Espinal.
Present.
Vice Chairwoman Peterson.
Present.
Councilwoman Harris. Councilman Vargas.
Present.
Councilor Royas.
Present.
You have 5 present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to sign in? So this is our 5th public hearing. Many of you have already spoken. I see a large number of people that have probably signed up. So why don't we say we keep it to 1 minute just to get you in and out. You know how this is important to us, and this is why we had so many hearings. We want to make sure that you are heard. Okay, Madam Clerk, first item on the agenda, please.
An ordinance adopting the City of Providence's official comprehensive plan.
Thank you. And tonight we have Mr. Bob Baser from the Department of Planning and Development. And before Mr. Azer speaks, I just want to wish him a very happy birthday. Today's his birthday. Happy birthday, Bob.
Thank you.
You know, October 21st must be a very special day because it is also Pro Tem Picharo's birthday. Happy birthday, Pro Tem. And also Miguel Young's, one of our policy team member.
Wow.
It's a special day. All right. Mr. Bob, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the committee. Happy birthday as well. And I hope we all get a good present tonight with this comprehensive plan. I just have a couple of things that I want to put into the record. There is a revised draft that has been posted to the City Council's website. There were a couple things that I want to mention. June Rose, your Chief of Staff, also has a couple of items as well. I just want to mention that we have updated the growth map to change some of the labeling on the neighborhoods. We have updated the future land use map that includes properties we mentioned previously, 215 Camp Street, 639 Wickenden Street, 173 Ives Street. There were a couple of modifications to the
Bob, they're having a hard time hearing you in the back.
yeah, it sounds like the volume's not all that high on this mic.
Thank you, Mr. Victor, for pointing that out.
Test 1, 2, 3. It's not that high. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2, 3.
Is that better?
Is that better?
I can turn it up. I can turn it up if you need me to.
I would turn it up. Test 1, 2, 3. Testing. Seems a little better. That's probably that's a little distorted. Yeah. Okay. We'll do our best. Okay, so I mentioned that we updated the growth map, the labeling of neighborhoods, the future land use map to include a couple of properties that we talked about last time. The base zoning map has also been updated, as has table 11.1, which describes the changes in the map change, zoning map changes that have also been updated. Finally, the implementation table has been updated with new language that reflects the most recent text changes that June Rose will describe for you.
Thank you. Okay, before we go to June Rose, our Chief of Staff, I'd like to acknowledge Councilwoman Graves, who is here with us tonight, Council President Rachel Miller, Councilman John Goncalves, Councilman Miguel Sanchez, Pro Tem Pichardo, as well as City Solicitor E.P. Swabs. Thank you. June, please.
Good evening. Good to see folks who are here for the 5th straight week for a public hearing. We have new language in 2 sections since our last public hearing last week. The first bit of new language is in M5K, and this is about gas stations. This committee previously amended the language, changing it from discourage the development of new gas stations to prohibit the development of new gas stations within city limits. We've added the language, except by special use permit if the targeted land is unsuitable for residential development. In the section on designations and definitions of the future land use map, in business/industrial and in waterfront/port, so this is language that will relate to both M2 and W3. We formerly had prohibitions with the word may, that may be prohibited in the future city zoning ordinance. We've now added on top of that a section of designations that will be prohibited, that shall be prohibited by the comp plan. And so the language that we've added in to do that is, in the general industrial district, M2, the city shall prohibit the following future uses: power generation plants dependent on the combustion of fossil fuels or via processes that produce emissions at levels that are established to impact public health, noxious or toxic chemical manufacturing, and ethylene oxide manufacturing and storage facilities. And then it continues, via the city zoning ordinance, the city may prohibit future uses, and that is the language that was in previously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we'll hear remarks from Council President. Please.
How are we doing? Loud enough? Okay. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to sincerely thank everyone who's out here again tonight for the 5th public hearing, and everyone who has been coming out all along throughout this process. Attending a public hearing, sharing your story at a community meeting, submitting written testimony. We are so grateful, the City Council is so grateful for the tremendous amount of input that we have gotten on this plan. And this council heard those voices and feedback, and those truly shaped tonight's amendments. This plan is stronger because of the testimony of every single resident and business that gave it. I'd like to give a special thanks to Bob Azar and Tim Shea. For nearly 2 years, Bob and Tim have been collecting feedback and submitting proposals. In Ward 13 alone, last year, more than 300 people weighed in on the comprehensive plan, participated online or in person. And then finally, I want to thank this committee, Councilors Vargas, Councilwoman Peterson, Councilman Royas, Deputy Majority Leader Harris, Chairman Espinal. You have really set the table on how to include residents, how to include everyone who lives and works in our beloved city. We're here at this 5th public hearing with thousands of input points. I don't think that Providence has ever had a comprehensive plan that has included so many voices. The amended plan before us tonight addresses head-on the challenges that residents face, the challenges that we all face together. And it holds faith in those hopes that were shared through all of the testimony and all of the letters. It holds those as well. Our vision for growth, the path forward for Providence, it's one where the working people of Providence thrive. It's a vision for families who are worried about making rent each month, for young people worried about being priced out of the neighborhood that they grew up in, for elders who are concerned about the ability to stay in their homes, for new immigrants looking to build a safe future for their children, for communities suffocated for decades by pollution and environmental hazards, for all of the workers who work in Providence to make Providence great and who are seeking a path to family-sustaining wages, for people who rely on public transit, for pedestrians that want safer streets, for all of us that call Providence home. The policies we propose need to match the scale of the challenges we face. And so just to remind you of two of those challenges, Rhode Island has the highest asthma rates in the country. Last year, Providence had the highest rent increases nationwide. So we have a responsibility to act, not with half measures, but with bold, decisive action that reimagines what's possible. The comprehensive plan prepared and presented to this committee was already strong from the planning department and the administration. It rightly focused on increasing housing density and supply throughout the city, recognizing that the housing shortage is a key part of the crisis. But tonight you've got amendments before you that center the other key crisis related to housing, and that's affordability. The choices we make tonight will determine the kind of city Providence becomes and who Providence is growing for and with. And I'm so proud of what we're bringing to this table. The plan addresses the most urgent issues facing Providence, from housing to climate to transportation. And the people of Providence can't wait any longer. Rent and home ownership are untenable for residents across income brackets. We know this. We can't afford to live. That's why these amendments include inclusionary zoning and the creation of mixed income affordability citywide as a key strategy to grow towards. If we're serious about growing with the communities who make Providence a great and beloved city today, if we're serious about stopping the cycle of displacement, we have to work together to make affordability the rule and not the exception. Inclusionary zoning means that every new development contributes to solving the housing crisis, not driving up costs. It's about making sure developers set aside units so that working families, nurses, teachers, hotel workers, cleaners, right, aren't priced out of the city that they help keep running. And we're gonna have to fight to ensure that everyone in Providence has a place to call home. And in this case, by fight, I mean we together, this council, has to work together. The plan is just the start. It's the roadmap and the vision for where we need to go. We gotta find the subsidies, we have to strengthen tenant protections, we have to support tax agreements that make this plan not only possible, but powerful in its impact. We need to break down the barriers that stifle our growth. A great example of this that so many people shared in testimony is outdated parking minimums, which have tied our hands and limited our potential. So required parking minimums, as they currently exist, drive up housing costs, underutilized valuable parcels of land, and deter development. By reducing and eliminating them wherever possible, wherever reasonable, we can free land for better use and incentivize developers to build the homes we need. The amendments before you do not ban parking minimums outright. They create the path to do so on appropriate projects and in appropriate neighborhoods. As we build, we need to maintain the beauty and the character of our beloved city. Thank you to Councilors Anthony and Gonsalves for keeping that front and center, and to Councilor Anthony for proposing a new committee to review and enforce design standards, ensuring that growth doesn't compromise the aesthetics and architectural integrity that make Providence unique. For generations, the area in and around Providence's port has been an environmental hazard, endangering the health, safety, and well-being of Southside residents. Thank you to the leadership of Majority Leader Espinal and so many residents who submitted testimony, who came here week after week. The plan sets us on the path to prohibit outdated uses that are poisoning our air and water and move us towards a clean and green economy that centers workers and residents. It's past time that we shift away from fossil fuels and invest in green infrastructure. Throughout the plan, new language introduced by Deputy Whip Anderbois emphasizes the urgency of the climate crisis and embeds sustainability into the fabric of our city, from improved stormwater mitigation plans to plans for a resilient urban forest. We are standing up for cleaner air, for public health, for a future that's sustainable for all of us. And let's be crystal clear, when we're talking about addressing homelessness, we're talking about dignity and respect for our city's most vulnerable residents, who very often do not have a voice. We refuse to treat people like a problem to be swept away. Instead, under the leadership of Majority Whip Sanchez, we're coming to real, evidence-based solutions that center the humanity of every resident, including providing temporary use permits for emergency shelters, improving outreach and services to encampments, developing permanent housing options, ensuring access to mental health and substance use treatments. It's time for a new direction for this city on homelessness. The amendments before us represent deep collaboration. It incorporates the priorities of all 15 councilors and the needs of all 15 wards. So when I look at the plan before us, I see a shared vision for a more just, a more equitable, a more sustainable Providence. I see a city that is fighting for its people. Providence is resilient, and that resilience is what makes us special. But to truly thrive, we have to be ambitious, intentional, and unwavering in our commitment to one another. Providence is ready to lead, and with the plan before you tonight, we will. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Council President. And also, thank you for your hard work in this. I saw everything that you did, and you were tireless, and you really worked hard on this. Thank you so much. Okay, so City Sergeant, can I get the list of everyone that has signed up, please? Okay, and before we go to the public, I'll entertain a motion to enter into the record Exhibit H.
So moved.
Motion is made by Councilor Peterson, second by Councilman Vargas. All in favor, aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. I will also entertain a motion to enter into the record South Bay.
So moved.
Motion is made by Councilor
Second.
Peterson, second by Councilman Vargas. All in favor, aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. All right, so before I go to the public, any council member that would like to speak at this point, you're more than welcome. Okay, so the first person that signed up is Grant Dugarian.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Garrett. I live on 6th Street.
I call Grant Dugarian.
Oh, Grant. Oh, I thought you said
The-
Greg. I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
know.
Grant, would you like to go first?
Mr. Dugarian, you available now? Or you went away a little bit? Okay, Greg, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Greg Garrett, 6th Street. Since I only have a minute, I'm going to talk about a few things very quickly. One, I think this plan does not move our economy forward. It actually moves our economy backwards. The economy that we have based on fossil fuels is the economy of the past. We need a much greener economy. I don't think the mayor understands that. I don't think a lot of people understand that yet, and how much it's going to take to do that. But this plan, as it's currently modified, is not doing that. The two things I will just emphasize is, one, we had an amendment that said we shall prohibit things that we do not think are good. And you change the language on that to may, and it doesn't really work. I mean, the public health is a key factor in our economic going forward, and this doesn't do it. The second point I'll make is about gas stations. We don't need any more gas stations. When was the last time anybody in this room saw a long line at the gas station? We don't need them, and we don't want them. And as the amount of people switching to electric cars, and that number will increase, exponentially over the years, we don't need gas stations. We've got plenty of them. And, I walk by all over the city. I have never seen a line of people waiting at the gas station. Any ordinance that says we should build more gas stations is a serious mistake. Thank you.
Greg, just a point of clarification, and for everybody else, the amendment on the board does say shall prohibit. That was made today.
Oh, you've added another amendment on those stuff on the port?
Thank you.
Okay, because the last I saw was, it said may, and so
Okay.
I'm sorry if you've kept shall, I approve, but it should also be the bigger list rather than the little list, because there was a much longer list that it said shall, and those have still been placed on may.
Thank you.
So I would ask you that.
Thanks. Steve Alquist.
Hey, everybody, thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you. Who's worried about climate change on an 80-degree October day? In under 24 hours, well over 2,000 people read my piece in the comp plan last week. The overwhelming response was, why put polluters ahead of our kids? Just because Mayor Smiley, lobbyists, and real estate lawyers care more about the future gas stations and future polluting industries than they do about the health of our living, breathing children doesn't mean that you have to. This plan could have been great, even visionary, as Julian Drixt testified 2 weeks ago. Now it's slightly better, a small step rather than a great leap, but still not equal to the challenge of environmental justice, and we could have led on this. To prohibit the development of new, oh, no, I don't want to do that line, hold on. The city may prohibit future uses in the general industrial district that go against public health and quality of life in near industry neighborhoods. Why say near industry neighborhoods when you could say environmental justice communities? I think that's just eluding the issue. It's a lie. Realizing fossil fuel emission reductions in response to climate change is another line in here, and will encourage future industrial uses that promote environmentally just economic development. This is all good, but it's all may. It may do that, but it also may not do that. When you put in a word like it may realize fossil fuel emission reduction goals, it also means you might not. And this, maybe I can trust all 15 of you to make the right decisions if this were to come before you, but what about the next council or the council after that? We had a chance here to do something really, really great, and this is better than it was before 2 weeks ago, but it's not what it was 2 weeks ago. And it's better than it was last week, maybe, some of the changes, but it's not up to the task. And I just have to say that this is a 1 in 10 year chance to do something real, and we're not hitting it. And we're gonna be very, very sad because we have this highest asthma rates in the country right now among children in that part of Providence. And they're not gonna get better if we don't do something better for them. And to say, oh, well, this industry isn't as bad. There is no industry that could go there to make things worse. You're already topping at the charts. There's nothing that you put in there that could make the situation worse for asthma because they aren't 99th percentile. There's no higher percentile. So you're already doing as bad as you can, and you're saying, we might just continue to do that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dwayne Keys.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you also very much for this opportunity. I want to thank the council for its revisions that it placed in the one chapter that I haven't really heard much about, economic development in these processes, but I definitely want to appreciate the changes in the inclusion of micro business that really adequately describes the state of our city. At the same time, that chapter in our overall plan seems to be lacking something that really tells the truth about our city, and that really is the economic state of our residents. There's one sentence in the last chapter before the objectives and strategies of that chapter that says, Providence is well positioned to become a major economic hub regionally as it offers residents a higher quality of life at a lower price point than other New England cities. Well, according to Prosperity Now, which is a national organization that works on transforming the economy for all people, the average median household gross income for Providence is $55,787. And for people of color, and particularly black and brown folks, that range is $11,000 to $13,000 less than that. And again, that's gross, meaning people are living off of less than those amounts. This area tells me that when it comes to home ownership rates, small business, public benefits, that it certainly is not low cost to those who are here, and is questionable being high quality. So one of the things I recommend is that you include language that talks about addressing closing income and asset poverty. And there are organizations that work on and help municipalities to close that with evidence-based approaches and finding and funding those approaches without using tax revenue. One organization is called Results for America. There's also two objectives that I actually am very concerned about. In terms of Objective 5B, establish a vision and plan for the city's first source program to ensure that Providence residents have access to today's jobs. Well, I would say there's already a vision and plan. It's the ordinance that was created years ago. That should be changed to just enforce the ordinance that's already in existence. The other option that I see right here was E, work with local institutions of higher education to incentivize graduates with high demand credentials to stay in Providence. I'm a very big person when I think intentionality is important. And as someone who was the out-of-state student who came here, who graduated and stayed, I will say to you that I am very troubled that that may happen in terms of, that's not specific to say those graduates who graduate from PPSD, who stayed here, who were in long-term residence. You will have a whole other class of residents who may not be as involved as I am, taking advantage of the benefits at the exclusion of our long-term residents who do deserve those opportunities. And lastly, I would say there's intent and then there's impact, and I would caution and urge this council that when it comes to anything that's being proposed, think of the impact, not the intent of what we want to do or what is it they want, but what is it that we want to have happen, and what is it that we want to experience and see 10 years from now. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eads. Andrew Blaze. Okay, thank you. Kate Shapira.
Thank you to the members of the council. My name is Kate Shapira. I live at 4 Brighton Street in Providence. I'm calling on the council and the city to at least maintain and preferably strengthen the language committing the city to building no new polluting industry in the Port of Providence and to sunset the polluting industries currently in operation. The South Side is people's home, not a sacrifice zone for the wealthy. Our city does not need that money at the expense of the health and lives of Black, brown, disabled, and impoverished residents, including elders and children. You have the power to open up a path to health and well-being for all the city's people. Don't squander that power or hand it over to people who will sicken our present and set our future on fire to make a profit that we will not see. Make that commitment strong and binding to protect our air, soil, water, and people. Thank you.
Thank you. Julian Drix. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Julian Drix. I'm here as the chair of the city's Sustainability Commission. When I last spoke to you less than 2 weeks ago, I was here to thank you all for your visionary leadership and the amendments that you had proposed to the comprehensive plan. I submitted a letter to you all on Friday that you should have that said that unfortunately that gratitude was premature. Since I shared that and since the original amendments were introduced, in just 1 week since then, they were essentially gutted to appease powerful industry lobbyists who have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo that is poisoning our communities. In the less than week, about a half week since those modified amendments have come out, we have been in further discussions, and I know that there are many negotiations happening with those industries and with the mayor's office and others who are interested in maintaining the status quo. I do recognize that there were some small changes that have been made since then, that there is a short list of things that are now listed as shall prohibit, and while I appreciate that, it is not nearly enough because the things that are being listed as shall prohibit are either things that will not be expanded because there's no place or need to expand them, such as power plants. We already have 2 power plants in this area, so they will not be expanded more. They will ban the noxious or toxic chemical manufacturing, which is already a use that is prohibited under the current zoning ordinance, so that is not offering us anything in addition. It is banning ethylene oxide manufacturing, which is not a current use that we have in the port or anything that I've ever heard being proposed. So it is not anything that is a political give on that. And then it leaves the rest of the list as abbreviated, condensed down, not specific, and without any real promises, saying that we may prohibit, and it's asking us to trust that the zoning process will have better results than what we have just seen take place, which is the industries that are making financial gain from the poisoning of our communities and the maintaining of a toxic status quo will continue to use their power and their backroom lobbying to protect their interests at our expense. And I'm here to say that the Sustainability Commission just met prior down the hall immediately before this meeting to review the proposed changes. They were modified, and we are here to say that nothing has changed. It is still not enough. We need strong language. We need to say will, because this is our chance to say what we want our city to be in the future. I appreciate the council president's remarks that we are a city that fights for its residents, and I ask you to do that with this comprehensive plan. Do not water it down. Do not undercut the progress that you are so close to making. Earlier today, I spent the day in Superior Court testifying on behalf of the Rhode Island Attorney General in the case of Rhode Island Recycled Metals and the receivership hearing following the 3 fires that they had recently and the ongoing toxic pollution and contamination that they have directly across the street from the Providence Community Health Center's Chafee Health Center, and making the case before a judge around environmental justice and the impacts in this neighborhood that federal data shows is the worst that you have around the country. It is in the 99th percentile of the combined set of polluting industries, risk factors, and the health impacts of community. So while the lobbyists who are here representing industry are telling you to protect the status quo and making money off of that, the children in our community have hospital visits for their asthma. They have cancer diagnoses that are coming from the pollution that is here. There is so much that we can agree on, and I provided some of the language that was added to the amendments that I stand by that says we can agree that there are industrial uses that we need to transition to a green economy. We added those in. We said, let's say what we can promote. Let's make sure it is union. Let's prioritize a just transition, and let's build towards a future that is healthy and sustainable for all of us, including the community and including workers. And that needs to be what we work together on, but we cannot do that while we continue to bow and cave to the asphalt, the petroleum, the chemical, and the toxic industries that are poisoning our communities and making us sick. This is our chance to say enough is enough, and I need you all to stand by the community, do what you say you're going to do, prohibit, say you will do it, and stand by it so we can actually make some real change happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, come on. Linda Perry.
Thank you, Julian. Well, this is 2025 almost. Next month is November, a couple of weeks away. Big month. And then there's December, and then it's 2025. Just to set the stage a little bit, we shouldn't be doing old work. I support the sustainability's position of not supporting the present comprehensive plan. I speak as a longtime resident of Washington Park, living in 02905, in the shadows of Allens Avenue and downwind from Providence Port. Over the several decades, we have been misled by multiple mayors and other city council members. Residents have been exposed to toxic fumes, sprague, leaks, explosions and fires, Rhode Island metals, train derailments, gasoline tanker truck toxic leaks, salt spills ruining the roads, fugitive rusty dust from Sims, and 2 illegal building requests. Transfer station, as you remember, Narragansett Improvement Company, public street fencing off, illegal land use from Narragansett Improvement Company, processing asphalt on the water side, and many other insulting, unhealthy acts of misuse and abuse of power. Several above-mentioned companies are represented by Providence Working Waterfront Alliance. The residents of Ward 10 and 11 are sick and tired of being swept under the rug in the name of compromise, and you can all see there are over 6,000 residents living in Ward 10 and 11. I did send a statistic, couple of pages that showed the demographics of Ward 10 and 11, 6,000 people. And of those 6,000 residents living in Ward 10 and 11, 77% of those residents are between 18 and 65 years old, and they vote. Residents deserve a cleaner future, period. Decisions should be made by what is in the best interest of the residents and in alignment with the climate justice plan, not the asks of lawyers and lobbyists that do not live here. Don't be on the wrong side of history, please. Please protect the public health and citizens of all ages in Wards 10 and 11 and others, as well as the air and water for all residents. Please amend the wording changes from may back to will in writing. We can still have a thriving waterfront with new and existing jobs, clean air and water, as well as deserved public access. This can happen with forward-thinking leadership today. So I ask you to all be forward thinkers and not dwell in the past. This is 2025 after all, and we have a world-renowned, if not more than appreciated plans that has been put forward that we should adhere to, the climate justice plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Ellen Tuzulo. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. I appreciate the pronunciation of my last name. That was great.
Was that good?
It was great.
Oh, wow.
My name is Ellen Tuzzolo, or Tuzzolo, resident of Washington Park, Miller Ave and Roger Williams Park. Pride. My child is a child who's living in Washington Park suffering from asthma. And as I was coming here tonight, I was thinking, okay, do I express my anger? Do I express my sorrow? Do I cheerlead and remind you all that you have the opportunity to make real change here? And really where I'm at is just wanting to express deep sorrow and dismay at the changes that have been made to the recent version of the comprehensive plan. I implore you to take a firm commitment to Black, brown, and low-income communities in this city, and be strong in your commitment that the city will and not may prohibit the very long list of things that never should have been able to be existing in the neighborhood that I live in the first place. And from what I understand, and I think Julian really spoke powerfully to this, the recent changes sort of trying to make things come back to the middle are really just promising these environmental justice communities many things which are already prohibited, while at the same time giving the money-making toxic machine that operates in the port exactly what it wants. And I just want you all to know that we are not confused about that. I was on the city council's website looking at the sort of like B-roll that you all have in the background. It's very cute, you should check it out. It's Providence kids, there's black and brown kids, they're on swings, they're dancing, they're spending time outside having cookouts. There's some white kids there too, and you know what, there's even some seasonal pumpkins. Very cute. I wanna tell you what is not cute. What is not cute is the pattern of community members coming here, spending hours providing testimony, retelling our trauma and our pain, being promised changes, and even thinking that we've won changes in these proposed documents, and then behind the scenes, they're torn apart by lobbyists. It's not cute. It's really not. And I couldn't help but thinking, because I've literally done, I mean, many people before me and probably after me, we spend hours at these, testifying at these types of things. And I couldn't help thinking that I really wish that the city and these other regulatory agencies would just be upfront and tell Providence residents, especially from South Providence, that you may care, but in reality, people really actually care about the profits and making sure we're making happy those toxic operators in the port. And I'm tired. I'm tired of telling the same story about not being able to open my windows in the morning, about trips to the hospital with my kid for asthma attacks, about illnesses my neighbors and their kids are having related to this stinking toxic air. And I am trying to have hope. There are a lot of people here trying to have some freaking hope, to believe in democratic processes, to think that all of our time here is worth absolutely something. Please give us some hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Baptista.
Hello there. Hi. So,
Good evening.
Good evening. So, in the last hearing, I said that the comprehensive plan is my belief that it requires more significant changes for it to work for neighborhoods. And so far, what I've heard since the last meeting, that there's been more upzoning changes, more properties added, and some language changes. Not what I'm talking about, but for instance, upzoning. Upzoning is not enough to solve the housing crisis. It provides mass and volume, but there is no guarantee that the housing will always go to those who need it, especially once taken over by developers whose goal is less about affordable housing and more about bringing in those with the biggest bank accounts. And there's another concern. Now, when I heard about the number of housing, part of me thought crazy, but other part of me thought, you know, this is good. But then something came in my head, like one of the worst case scenarios is, what if a large portion of the housing gets taken over by college students? You know, if that happens, the housing crisis will get worse with not enough housing left for non-college residents. Something should be put in place to restrict the number of college student occupancy. Yeah, I know Providence is a university town, but more than once over the years, I've come across a space in the city, a newly empty space, vacant space, that I would think would be ideal for non-college mandated housing, only for it to be taken over later on by the opposite, or a new college building. I know the comprehensive plan can't be perfect. We live in an imperfect world, but with the livelihoods of so many at stake, especially with this being a 10-year plan, The plan has to be better. It must be better. And it can only be better with more changes. More changes than, and not changes in terms of upzoning and all that stuff. I mean, more changes that go deeper than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Batista. Doug Victor.
Thank you, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening to you all, everybody in the room. So, where I'd like to start off with is again a mention of the process. So we all know that the questions that are crafted and how the methodologies are used often sway the results of any survey. Am you not hearing me? Okay. I'll try to speak more directly into the microphone.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I need to see at the same time, so it's a little troublesome. So again, I just want to reiterate that one of the things I put in a letter is that 10 years, the 10-year cycle for this comprehensive plan is much too long. That if it requires a change in city charter as the city moves forward, so be it. I've also called in the past for reviews along the way, marked reviews, periodic reviews, with a loop back of recommendations that can come in to sort of like tweak it more as time goes by. So we don't know what the world is going to look like again in 10 years. So that's a long time off. And I would like to also say that, you know, lobbyists and developers have a lot of influence in our governmental processes. And they impact the outcome oftentimes in ways that ordinary residents of Providence do not have the occasion to do, because they don't have the resources and many feel like they're enabled to have a voice in a system that is difficult to navigate sometimes. This comprehensive plan has been a big bite for everyone, including all of you here. And so for many people, I feel like that bite is much too big for people to be able to respond to. So again, I'm appealing with this body to direct planning and development to have conversations with people in the neighborhoods that aren't specifically tied to city councilors, although those meetings are important. There are neighborhood associations, there are other places that those conversations can happen. And planning and development has had many conversations, I will give them that. But I think there's more to go when we look at the tip of the iceberg and the full population of Providence. We've just gotten, I think, to the tip of the iceberg. To that point about developers, it is really interesting to note that Connolly Law has several pages of very specific recommendations in this city plan. They take up how many pages? They have about 40 specific recommendations for what appear to be upzoning, and residents like me, I have a one-page letter in there. You know, so you know, the resources, and, you know, I'm not going to gain by financially necessarily by development in my neighborhood, but I will gain if this body really takes it to heart to protect the legacy historic nature of our city, which is in jeopardy with this comprehensive plan and the type of development for high-density development that they're proposing. And I would like to also say that the plan is not going far enough for environmental protections, and that needs to be wholly considered. So if there were a review, the review could be how has the past 2 years of development advanced the needle for environmental protections or not? And that could be measured. It could be measured qualitatively, it could be measured quantitatively, and that could be part of the feedback mechanism that I think is needed, that we just can't have one plan that sits for 10 years. And I know I'm repeating myself on that. So I would like to say that the future of Providence rests with all of us, but with this vote in City Council, it rests with our city councilors. And you work for us. We brought you into office, and for planning and development. You work for us also, and I think that needs to be said respectfully and on the record. So
Thank you.
Yep. So I would say that if not now, when? If not us, and if not you in City Councilor, who? To make certain that the future of this city is on track, that preserves its identity. It's a known city. People come here from far and wide to come to events, to see the historic nature of the city, to stroll Benefit Street, to come out to some of the other places in the city that are vibrant parts of our city, including those in the South Side. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Mr. Victor. Lily Bogosian.
Again.
Good evening.
As you know, I'm Lily Bogosian, and I'm the president of the Fox Point Neighborhood Association. I have talked with you 4 times now. Nice to see you tonight. I've talked probably another dozen or so times to the CPC about preserving the integrity of our socioeconomic engine in Fox Point, which is Wickenden Street. I've talked to you about the Vartan Gregorian children on the street, the Boys and Girls Club, the library. These will be in the mix of these huge construction projects that have already begun. A city official has suggested that the City Council has neither the desire nor the ability to require new developments on Wickenden Street to limit the massing of buildings in communities such as ours, even though we enjoy great success on this little street that you've heard me talk about. It appears that the diversity of our community is secondary to the need for not just more, but bigger housing really big housing with tiny apartments that are not affordable. The pathway to gentrification is once again coming at us, Fox Point, like a steamroller. We have asked that height and massing be in accordance with successful economies like ours. We have asked that parking be required until public transportation has made modest headway in providing a means of our residents to get to work and to drive their children to school. Fox Point may be the ward with the greatest potential housing growth in all of Providence. The I-95 corridor was opened up, and the CPC continues to upzone. So I ask you, when will we get someone to protect us, to protect our citizens? I'm looking at you. We would like a design review committee that is chaired by our neighborhood. We would like parking requirements to remain until the state can get us public transportation, and we would like our local businesses, our local business district, to be represented by our city council, which means limiting the ability of developers to build mega buildings on local business streets. In this case, as I've talked to you 4 times before, between Gano and North Main Street. It's a small strip to ask for protection. Hundreds of Fox Point citizens have asked for these protections. More than 90% of our small businesses have asked for these protections and have objected to the mega buildings because of the loss of revenues and ultimately the increased opportunity costs to them. Fox Pointers have a place to meet that is safe, social, and healthy. We have mature trees that will be removed with the construction projects that are proposed. Wickenden Street is the heart of our community. By allowing unchecked scale and massing of our new buildings, the city is throwing away Fox Point's social, economic, and cultural activities that are unique to us. So I will ask you again, are you going to protect our little street that we are asking you to consider maintaining at a reasonable scale? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Grant Dugarian. Grant, are you ready? Mr. Dugarian, take your time. Would you like me to send a microphone over there? All right.
Not a good combination. Excuse me. Grant Dolgarian, can we hear clearly? I will try to speak slowly.
Yes.
The best practices. We've heard that phrase before. Supposedly, cities and towns have conversations with one another, see what they're doing, what's working, and we adopt their working things accordingly. So, number one, resource recovery recycling. Why is Providence at the bottom of the barrel of the 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island as far as recycling rate is concerned? There's no justification. Recycling is not rocket science. We're not dumb in Providence. Why are we not doing a much better job of recycling? We have a landfill filling up way prematurely. Everyone agrees it's going to get filled up next decade. Then what are we going to do? Best practices. How come we haven't talked any other cities and towns of what they're doing and why we can't double our recycling rates, triple our recycling rates from what they are now? That's missing, lacking in this comp plan. It ought to be in there. Number two, education. Why are our test scores still so low? I don't know. I'm not an education expert, but it would seem to me that if we got folks together and in 4 different categories, students, teachers, parents, and administrators, and asked each of those categories what their responsibilities are, maybe we could come up with some answers. Mobility. I read a report a long time ago that said Providence was 97% of the city of Providence was served by public transit, by RIPTA. How come we have such a low rate of folks using it? There's no justification. Providence doesn't send any money to RIPTA, doesn't support RIPTA with a single dollar, and I'm not suggesting that they should, but there are things that Providence could do that doesn't cost them anything, but would enhance RIPTA ridership. How come that's not in the plan? Nothing at all. Finally, we talk about land use and housing. You know, it wasn't that long ago people were underwater. Now, housing costs have skyrocketed. What have we done wrong, and what can we do to rectify it? The answer is not to obliterate R2 zones. R2 zones have been longer than anybody here is alive in the city of Providence. No justification for that. What there is justification for is to look to see where we lost our dwelling units, our population, over the course of the 30 years between 1950 and 1980, and how we can do what we can do to replenish those areas. The planning department, we have talented people in the planning department. This plan is not justification for their talent. They can do much better. Did they look at specific areas of where we lost the population the most and what we can do to bring it back? No. I have specific recommendations and specific zip codes. Sorry, not zip codes, census tracts, but no time to talk about it in an overarching public hearing. We need 9 public hearings on 9 sections, and then we can get into detail. Planning department didn't want people to get into detail. They had these sticky notes that you put on maps and said, here's what we concern, here's what we consider. We have a plan that is not justification for what we need to do here in the city of Providence on a variety of fronts. And so I would request the city council, if you don't send it back to the city plan commission, tell them to do its job, then to have specific targeted hearings on each category. And then we can get a much better plan. The plan as it's proposed now is a travesty. Now, I'll give you one example. They're talking about upzoning blocks that are just up the hill from North Main Street, from R1 to R3. These are nice, stable, starter homes. What happened to the concept of starter homes? These are starter homes. Small homes on small little lots on a hill. One block up are what used to be house lots, used to be houses on house lots, are now empty and vacant, doing nothing in particular except what? Surface parking. Why is there surface parking there? Because the institution that is there that moved in, that relocated from the other side of the city over half a century ago, started acquiring them and bulldozing them, knocking them down to do what? Surface parking. Over the course of a half a century, has this institution at all taken the opportunity to build a deck? Not a garage, not underground, just a deck. They own property that's on a hill, 2 blocks away from their main campus. They could put a deck there and free up service parking lots for house lots. What a beautiful idea. R2 zone duplexes. We just had an article in the paper a couple weeks ago regarding, was it Portland Street or someplace on the west side that built a series of duplexes, and they were very nice. And that was on contaminated ground. This is not contaminated ground at all. That's what we ought to be doing, and we can do it in multiple locations in the city of Providence, and this would enhance our city as opposed to overcrowding are stable neighborhoods. So I commend your efforts and urge you to tell the planning department that they can do a much better job than what they have presented us
Thank you.
so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garion. City Sergeant, do we have anybody else that signed up? Thank you. I'll open up to committee members. Councilor Peterson, I know you wanted to say something.
Director Azar, I actually had a question for you in reference to something that someone spoke about. The recommendation for a review at some point in this 10-year mark. It's not the first time we've heard it, but I would just like to know the feasibility of an opportunity like that so that we can have kind of a check-in and see where we could improve. Just wondering what like I said, the feasibility of something like that would be.
It's certainly feasible to review the plan periodically. The state allows comprehensive plans to be amended. I believe it's up to 4 times a year. They can't be amended, over and over again, but it is allowable. With the plan that's currently in effect, I think that there was enough flexibility built into it that it was able to be adaptable throughout a 10-year period. Certainly, if it turns out that this comprehensive plan doesn't have that flexibility or doesn't anticipate things that come up, it can be amended. In terms of a review, it's certainly something we can do. We are always evaluating how well our plans and regulations are working. We tend obviously to make more frequent amendments to zoning than we do to the comprehensive plan. But it's certainly possible. And I would consider it to be something that we do on a regular basis, at least in-house. But it could be a formalized part of the process.
Thank you, Mr. Azar. All set? Any other committee members? Hearing none? Thank you.
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Councilor Graves, please.
I know, I'm over here by myself, that's probably why. I did take a shower today, guys, I just wanted you to know. I'm glad that Councilwoman asked the question that she asked about the review. I have a question also. Is there a set deadline that this has to be in?
Mr. Azar.
I would just like to make a, I want to respond to the earlier question and then to the second question. There is something in the state law regarding comprehensive plans that says that we're required to file an informational report on the status of the comprehensive plan implementation program with the state of Rhode Island not more than 5 years from the date of municipal approval. So there is that review that's actually required. With respect to Councilwoman Graves' question, the city's approval of this, we were hoping for the city's approval of this plan in time that we could turn it into the state of Rhode Island so that they could review it and give their approval by January of 2025. That's when the state approval of our local comprehensive plan expires. If state approval expires and this plan is approved locally, it is still something that's binding on the city, and we can implement it, and we're required to implement it. But if we don't have state approval by the time the current state approval expires, then the state is not bound by our local comprehensive plan. And that could potentially create some issues if there are things that the state wants to do that we don't want them to do.
I just also want to say thank you to all my colleagues that, can you hear me?
Yes.
For working so hard on trying to get some of this done. I think you need to realize that there are 15 of us, and sometimes we are all trying to make sure that we improve this city. Some of us go about it different ways. That doesn't mean that anybody's slacking. It just means that we're just trying to work it out amongst ourselves so that it affects everybody in the city. We are hearing all your voices. We hear every word you say. I write down every word that you say. If you notice, most of us do. So you are being heard. And I still have some issues. Mine are a lot of yours. And that is the parking situation with the upzoning. The port, I think, is one of the biggest issues. My colleagues worked hard on trying to answer one of my questions from last week, which was the gas station, some of my concerns. So we are working. We're working hard, but we do have some goals that we have to meet. That doesn't mean that some of us may say no, or some of us will say yay. It just means that we're still working on it. And I think 5 times is a lot of times. And I appreciate all of you coming out and giving us your opinion. Keep nailing us upside the head, because sometimes we do need to hear it over and over and over again. But we are listening. We are trying our best. And I applaud the committee and all of my colleagues, because like I said, we don't all come about things from the same points, but we are trying to meet in the middle and make it the best city that we can for all of you. So that's just like I said, a congratulations to you guys for doing your civic duty, and to also let my colleagues know that I see you. I know sometimes I come across when I talk as a disciplinary mother or grandmother or whatever. And that's okay, because I am a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother, so that's the way I'm supposed to speak. You know?
And you will discipline us if there was a need.
Yeah, so I think these questions that we're asking now is because we want to know if we do pass this, whether or not we can continue to work on it, because we will continue to work on some of the things. We want to hash these things out. We do. And believe me, I feel for all of your children that are in that ward, but it's not just your ward, because we all know it doesn't stay stagnant in that one area. So East Providence is probably getting some of our air as well as other people. So no, we are working hard because we do care about the well-being of all of our citizens, especially our children. And that's really all I had to say.
Thank you, Ms. Councilor Graves. Councilman Vargas?
Thank you very much. Question for Mr. Azar about the sign committee, to make sure we have the same look of the properties where they're going to be building, or the new changes that we're going to do, to follow the same look that the neighborhood look like, doesn't look different. Who will appoint this committee?
So the plan describes a process where we assemble a temporary committee that's made up of developers, architects, committee members, builders, to help us in this process. We imagine that this would be a committee whose membership would be jointly decided on by the executive branch and the legislative branch, the administration and the city council.
Okay. And we're going to be working on the new zoning changes after we approve this, to the parking requirements too?
Yes, so once if the plan is approved tonight, obviously it needs to go to the full council for 2 votes, and it needs to be signed by the mayor. But I think if the plan gets approved tonight, that will send us a message that we've got a lot of work to get started on with respect to zoning changes. And the plan gives us the direction, and so we will use that direction. Planning staff, we have a group that we've assembled internal to the planning department, Department of Inspection and Standards, and staff from the law department. We'll start crafting these regulations. They get reviewed by the City Plan Commission before they come before this, come to the council to be heard by this committee. And absolutely that will include revisions to the parking requirements.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up today and say your concerns. And I want to say thank you to my colleagues who work very hard on this. And we will make a decision according to our knowledge for the best of our city and our communities. And thank you.
Okay, any other counselor? All right. Well, thank you so much. All right. Let me just add a couple of remarks. I think everything was well said. Our council president detailed everything that is in the plan and the vision that we have collectively. So I will not repeat that. And Councilor Graves expressed very well how much work this has. taken to get it here and how hard we work. I'm a witness and testament to the staff, to whom I'm grateful, to the Department of Planning. This did not happen overnight, but the Department of Planning has been spent close to 2 years, and over 80 community meetings were held. And that takes a lot of work to put all that together. So our colleagues, each council person has such important input to get this plan to where it is today. But I'm extremely, especially grateful to the Committee on Ordinance of Councilman Royas, Councilor Harris, Councilman Vargas, Councilman Peterson, for their input as well. This is not easy because at the end of the day, we know very well that we're not going to produce a plan that is perfect, but we aim to produce a plan that is better and that provides us a clear pathway to a better city where it can implement a better vision for our city. To each and every one of you that came here over the last 5 meetings, and some of your concerns were heard, some of those were implemented in the plan. The Sustainability Commission, and I will highlight Mr. Drix. I couldn't say enough about you, Julian. You're incredible. The work that you guys do is incredible. So everyone, even including the media, because you have taken time to get the message out there and to talk about what we're doing here, and through you, people have been more engaged and more involved. Anybody that wrote to this council, anybody that made a phone call, your voices were heard, but it was not easy. But here we are, okay? I particularly want to express myself in regards to the Port of Providence because I represent that area. And I can see, I know that things have not happened as quickly as we wanted to and as we preferred to. But over the last 5 years, we have made very serious progress. We did a deal with Proport that actually prevents the expansion of those things that we felt at that time could not be expanded. You know, we banned transfer station, we banned incinerators. In this comp plan, there is language that provides us with an opportunity to keep doing that work. So I think we all share the same vision when it comes to the Port of Providence. We just disagreed or have different ways of getting there. But I personally am not going to stop. I'm going to keep on working so that we can get us to a better place where a community can be better served. And yes, I do suffer from asthma, and so does my son. So I am personally impacted by this. But here we are. We're doing the people's work, the people's business, and we want to do it in a way that makes sense for everyone. We want to do it collectively, and I think that we're doing that. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair,
Motion is made by Councilwoman Peterson, second by Councilman.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. If you're going to make amendments, they have to be done before the public hearing is closed.
Well, we're going to be accepting as amended.
I think you need... Have those been voted on yet? They voted to substitute? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
So we'll close the public hearing, and then we will adapt as amended. Right? And I don't, so the motion was made by Councilor Peterson and was seconded by Councilman Royas to close the public hearing. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. And I will entertain a motion to approve as amended.
So move.
It's made by Councilman Vargas and is seconded by Councilwoman Peterson. All in favor, aye? Opposed, the ayes have it.
Chair, sorry, could I be on record to oppose?
Councilman Roy votes no. Okay, so the plan is approved as amended. And being that there is no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion is made by Councilman Vargas, second by Councilwoman Peterson. All in favor, aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. And thank you all again. Thank you so much.